for the Mayor of Gedling.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. We'll remain standing for a minute's silence to honour the passing of former councillor Harvey Maddock and also David Popple, because he was our theatre business manager. So we'll pause for a minute. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. You can now be seated. Thank you. Would anybody like to say anything? Thank you, Councillor Wheeler.
Thank you. I'd just like to say a few words about Harvey Maddox, Councillor Maddox. Councillor Maddox, I knew him quite well. He was dedicated to his community. He served a total of 8 years at Gedling Borough Council, and throughout those 8 years, he was passionate about the area that he represented, which was Killissick, which is an area that I now represent. And he was always available for local residents. He was always there. He was out and about. He knew the community like the back of his hand. I'd also like to pay tribute to the hard work that he did with the Royal British Legion in Arnold as well. He was well known in the Royal British Legion, did a lot of work there, a lot of voluntary work, and you know, I had a few pints with him down at the Legion Club quite a few times in the past. We didn't always see eye to eye, but I can honestly say that he was a salt of the earth. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wheeler. Anyone else? Oh, Councillor McCrossan, thank you.
Yeah, can I just say a few words regarding, I didn't know Councillor Maddock, but David Popple, can I just say a few words in terms of David? I worked with David when we were creating the Young People's Cinema. David was a great inspiration for Bonington. I mean, he really was the founder of developing the theatre, the cinema, all the work he did, his creativity, his enthusiasm. That's made it such a go-to place within the borough now, and it's just a credit to him, and it's just very, very sad that he's not with us anymore. But I just wanted to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor McCrossan. That's very true. Councillor Adams, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, just I'd like to pass on our condolences to the family and friends of both councillors. I didn't know either of them personally. I think we're quite a new group in that sense, so we didn't come across either of them during our time. But we'd just like to thank them for their service to the people of Gedling, and as I say, condolences to their family and friends as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Adams. Anyone else? Councillor Clark. Councillor John Clark, thank you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I just echo those thoughts of, that have just been passed on. Harvey was a character, and I know Henry used to fall out with him now and then, and there'd be vice versa, but at the end of it, a person that will be missed in Arnold without any doubt, because although he left our fold and went on his by himself as an independent eventually, but he never lost contact with us, but he's never lost contact with the people that he worked for, the people in Killistick and other people. And I think, again, he was a credit, apart from, put politics to one side in it, is what we expect out of people that stand for election in Gedling. So sadly missed there. And moving on, sadly, at the same time as David Popple, who has been an absolute star for us. If you remember when it was being closed and we were going to be closed, it was going to be dark, and that was 15 years ago. Paul the Darlington, who was then the director, fetched him in from, said he'd got loads of experience, John, he's this, that and the other, and he's been true to the word. He's put time and time trying to bring on that young team as well. So his succession he'd put in place. Unfortunately, his passing, is too early. But it put that piece in, that, the accession to the succession to him and all the things that are going off at the Bonington Theatre. And I say, I'm fighting here to try and get another theatre, because, certainly, I'm sure he's looking down on us from somewhere, but he'll be saying, don't forget that, you want that stage right, stage left, this, that and the other. But he'd worked all over the country in small theatres, kept them going, which were heart and soul of the community. Say, we will be sadly missed, and condolences to both those families.
Thank you very much, Councillor Clark. Councillor Roxanne Ellis, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A lot of, if not the majority, of the credit for the rejuvenisation and the ongoing strength of the Bonington Theatre and Cinema can be laid at the feet of David. He was a great person to work with, both when you were on stage and around the cinema, and a truly kind man who will be extremely missed by his colleagues and us. We were very fortunate to have him, and his dedication to the Bonington and its continued success, I hope, will be a great tribute to him.
Oh, thank you very much. Anyone else? No? I would just like to say they will be truly missed, because they were two beautiful people, different things, because one was a councillor and one was the business manager for the Bonington, but they were really nice people, but they're gone, but they'll never be forgotten. Thank you. One is Thought for the Day. My chaplain, Father Philip, is attending the meeting today and will now read the Thought for the Day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just share with you a short extract from a letter written by St. Peter. He begins, "You'll have to do your utmost yourselves, adding goodness to the faith that you have, understanding your goodness, self-control to your understanding, patience to your self-control, true devotion to your patience, kindness towards your fellow women and men, and to your devotion, and to this kindness, love. For if you have a generous supply of these, they will not leave you ineffectual or unproductive. They'll bring you a real knowledge, and indeed, lead you forward with confidence and joy." And so, dear friends, I just invite you to a short prayer, if you will. And we remember especially the terrible events going on in the Middle East, in Ukraine, as we seek grace and peace in these areas in our hearts and minds. Father, we ask the inspiration of your Holy Spirit through these moments of prayer, that our meeting will draw all whom we represent in community of service and justice for all in our borough, and indeed for our world itself. May we serve the common good in valuing all peoples, especially those poor and vulnerable who need our support. May service be the guiding principle. May we be of good cheer, that we be open through our dialogue together for the needs of our community and become a beacon of hope to the nation in our respect for all people. And may right judgment guide us, that we may be able to discern that which leads us to a greater vision and understanding for the progress of peoples, to achieve their potential, enable their growth as citizens for the common good. and may we be of understanding, that we may offer a listening ear and a loving heart as gathered here, and especially to those in need of leadership in our world of peace and harmony, in which all peoples may experience respect of their individuality, value of their personhood, and of their unique contribution to the good of all peoples. We ask this through Christ Jesus our Lord.
Thank you very much, Father Philip, and I hope you have a rest of a nice evening. Thank you very much, because I know you're very busy. Thank you very much. Item 2 is apologies, so can I ask the relevant members to confirm if we've got any apologies, please? Councillor Rachel Ellis, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have apologies from Councillor Jenny Hollingsworth, Councillor Michael Payne, Councillor Kyle Robinson-Payne, Councillor Pauline Allen, Councillor Roy Allen, and Councillor Alex Scroggy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sam Smith, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Apologies from Councillor Jane Walker and apologies from Councillor Sue Pickering. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hughes, please. Councillor Elwood, sorry.
Apologies for Councillor Hughes, Madam Deputy Mayor.
Very much. Councillor Whiting.
Both here, Madam Deputy Mayor.
No? No. 3, declaration of interest. Are there any declaration of interest, please? No? Thank you. I'll move on to Item 4 is to consider and, if approved, adopt the recommendations of Cabinet dated 19th of February 2026 and set the council tax for the year ending 31st of March 2027. We now move to the budget. The items 4A to D are to be taken as one. An amended report and council tax resolution for approval was circulated via email yesterday. Thank you very much. Councillor Clark, can I ask you to move, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Deputy Mayor.
And Councillor Davis to second. Yeah.
Formally second, reserve the right to speak.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Madam Deputy Mayor. I'll just go through the usual and appeal for people to listen to what the Father Philip had said about, some sort of peaceful way of going through this. And I had to represent Gedling at something else last week, so I missed the Raucous County Council, which I believe was not really the way to do business. But hopefully we can save having anything like that tonight. We did do the budget at the Fire Authority, which Mike is the Deputy Leader of the Fire Authority, and we went through, and I think we finished within about 10 minutes because people weren't trying to knock spots off each other. So I hope that isn't, we'll have disagreements, but hopefully that won't be there tonight. There'll probably be some amendments, I don't know yet, we'll wait and see, and we'll deal with that. So, Madam Deputy Mayor, for over a decade, local government has been on pause while we wait for key financial changes to be introduced. This year, the Labour government has delivered on these, and we now have the introduction of a fair funding review, a reset of the business rates, retention system, simplification of the grant system, and a multi-year settlements. Particularly on the multi-year settlements, I'm pleased to see this. It's been promised for some years by various chancellors, etc. And finally, we have got a 3-year settlement. Further changes are also happening regarding local government reorganisation, and this will create new single-tier authorities across the whole of England, meaning that the 9 existing councils across Nottinghamshire, including the city and the county, will all be merged. If they tell us when it'll happen, that'll be interesting, but we'll wait. Last November, 3 different proposals were submitted to the Minister on what the new structures will look like. These are all currently undergoing government consultation, and I strongly advise all residents to respond and subject your views, and we'll then wait a final decision. by the Minister in summer. Doesn't say which summer, Madam Mayor. That's perhaps being a bit cheeky, but it doesn't say that, but hopefully that will happen. Sadly, this means that Gedling Borough Council will cease to exist from 2028, which I think should put us about, we'll be 52 then, something like that. Our time is short, but our aspirations are still strong, and a Gedling legacy plan for the next 2 years is included in this agenda for approval, and that's the next agenda item. Now let's turn to the business in hand. Madam Deputy Mayor, I'm going to start with some of the details about budget funding. This year's budget continues to be set against a backdrop of historic cuts to government grant funding and declining income levels since 2010/11. Not only that, but we have seen rising inflation, rising demand, placing Gedling Borough Council and many other public bodies under incredible pressure. It was hoped that the new fair funding review and the introduction of a needs-based formula would bring recognition to the financial struggles of councils, such as Gedling, having faced over the past decade. However, despite these changes, the overall financial settlement for Gedling has only slightly improved. One measure for government, as always used, is the cumulative core spending for many years, and Gedling's been in the top 10 of the worst affected councils in England with the introduction of the fair funding review. Comparisons to the previous years are no longer possible, but I suspect we would still be in a similar position. The final settlement this year has been Gedling's core spending power increased by £977,000. But this includes government assumptions on housing growth and council tax increases. The real change in the settlement is an increase in cash grants of £628,000, mainly due to a one-off, and I'll repeat that, a one-off adjustment support grant introduced as protection for the last-minute changes made to the business rate calculations. Whilst this overall increase is welcomed, it is not the substantial increase that was hoped for. However, the Chief Financial Officer was prudent in her approach to budget setting last year, meaning that Gedling's budget position this year is healthier than expected, and we'll have more on that in a minute. I now turn to my attention to Gedling's response to the historic cuts in funding. As I stand here today, yes, like all other councils, we have been forced to make a significant number of budget reductions. However, I'm pleased to say that the quality and performance of our services have remained at high levels. We couldn't do any of this without our excellent staff. They continue to serve us and the people of Gedling extremely well, and we are very proud of them and their commitment to this council. I'll just say it's difficult for staff because, like us, we don't know where we'll be in the future, and they've stayed loyal to us. Since 2015-2016, full council has approved the efficiency programme, totalling nearly £8 million, and progress in delivering these has been positive. However, with the future inflationary pressures, there is a need to identify more and further efficiency savings amounting to £449,000, which are set out in the report. Turning to council tax, previous government cuts have impacted on our ability to maintain crucial services for our residents, businesses, and looking forward. There is a need to protect our ongoing financial stability. Therefore, regrettably, we are left with no choice but to raise the council tax level by 2.998%. That is for the years 26-27, which equates to 11 pence a week for a Band D property or 7 pence per week for a Band A property. As mentioned previously, Gedling will only continue to be in existence until 2028, and I am proud to say that the following financial settlement, the budget before us tonight, is forecast to be balanced up to 2029. And I think that's a real achievement, and congratulations to the 151 officer there to get those 3 years medium-term forecast correct. However, we must not be complacent, as the medium-term financial plan requires £2.5 million of ongoing efficiencies to be found in later years by the new unitary council following local government reorganisation. Madam Deputy Mayor, I'm pleased to say that once again this Labour administration has proven its worth. We have been prudent with our residents' pennies, looked after the taxpayers' pounds, and we are ambitious for our community's future, but we only spend what we can afford. So let me now turn to our unprecedented period as Labour administration. Since 2011, we have protected working age households by agreeing to a 100% funded council tax reduction scheme. And I am proud, along with the Labour group, to say that Gedling is one of the only handful of authorities who continue to offer this support. This will continue for another year, and an estimated 3,600 working age families will be protected from increased council tax pressures. That figure is 3,600. We remain firmly committed to economic development and will continue to offer our 2 hours free car parking in our town centres. We continue to invest in the refurbishment of children's play parks. We're also purchasing further homes to be used as temporary accommodation to mitigate against the expensive bed and breakfast accommodation. And there's been some excellent work that's been carried out there that's helped us. We are progressing through our digital transformation programme, which is now having an impact in delivering better services for our customers. In terms of leisure last week, we saw the Cabinet approve the progression of the Carlton Active project into the next stages of design, subject to review by the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. In terms of a housing delivery, everyone knows that we are getting new homes off the ground. It's a massive challenge, but Gedling has led the way in Nottinghamshire despite the high interest rates and increased building costs. The actual delivery of new homes in Gedling Borough remains very strong. Again, you can pat everybody on the shoulder on this, Deputy Madam Mayor, because, you know, for planning, getting that through, dealing with all the nitty-gritty of the planning issues, these houses have still been arriving. Last year, this council agreed to withdraw from the Greater Nottingham Strategic Plan in favour of preparing a Gedling Local Development Plan. In favour of preparing that Gedling Development Plan that will meet the government's new ambitious housing target in full, delivering 638 new homes every year, thereby meeting our growing demand for market and affordable housing. We're not just delivering conventional new homes in response to the climate emergency. We are working collaboratively with developers, key stakeholders, and also promoting the energy efficient ones. The first commercial housing scheme in the United Kingdom where every new home fully complies with that future home standard is now being built in Gedling Borough. The Keep motorhomes at Gedling Green produce 75% to 80% less carbon emissions than a properties constructed under the current building regulations, and are featuring air source pumps, heat pumps, solar panels, increased levels of insulation and electric vehicle charging points. I would encourage people to go and look at those because they're significant. Look a bit like a castle because the walls, it's not the ordinary cavity, they're quite large, the cavities are now, and they've got all the other things that go with it. To conclude, Madam Deputy Mayor, this year we will continue delivering for our residents, and there are very difficult times ahead, but this Labour administration will always rise to that challenge. This budget focuses on the issues that matter most to our residents and businesses. It is a budget full of ambition for the future, and I commend this budget to the Council and look forward to a constructive debate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Clark. Councillor Adams, please.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. We have an amendment which is with the Monitoring Officer as we speak. Are you happy for me to propose it while we deliver the documents, Madam Mayor, or would you rather me wait till it's distributed?
Oh, we'll wait. Yes, sorry. Thank you very much. So now, will there be an adjournment now, won't there?
Somebody will have to propose a second an adjournment.
Right.
I suspect somebody will. We might wait for him to introduce the meeting. Sorry.
I think everybody's got the paper. You all had time to have a look at it. Would you like to present it then?
Yes, please, Madam Deputy Mayor, thank you very much. Yes, you'll find our amendment today as has been the focus for many a year of the Conservative group, has been to improve the quality of our streets and to bring a view of civic pride to Nottinghamshire and, more importantly, to Gedling in this case. We have continually tabled this amendment, and we will arguably continue to do so until the council comes to its end, as the leader pointed out. So the council we have put together a plan, as you can see in front of you, and the amendment is as follows: the deletion of 2 portfolio holders, the removal of the deputy mayor's special allowance, the removal of policy advisor, removal of contacts magazine to make it an online-only publication, a reduction in salary costs by removing 1 band 11 manager post, the purchase as a result of those changes of a new road sweeper, which would result in an increase in the revenue budget to cover the cost of borrowing and associated running costs. That would also include, obviously, somebody to drive it. Unfortunately, we are not the owners of any autonomous vehicles as yet, and as a result we would need someone to drive the vehicle as well, which is obviously accounted for in the figures there too, and also the creation of Gedling's first ever rural officer who would be responsible for everything outside of Arnold, to ensure therefore that we can get the required development and opportunities across the whole of Gedling Borough. So yeah, that's our amendment there. Thank you very much, and we'll await your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Adams. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Martin Smith.
Thank you. Madam Deputy Mayor. Yes, I formally second that and reserve the right to speak.
Rachel Ellis.
Councillor Rachel Ellis, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Request a short adjournment, please.
Have we got a seconder for an adjournment? Councillor Wheeler, thank you. All in favour? 10 minutes, yeah? Councillor Whiting first.
Well, if no one else wants to, Madam Deputy Mayor, I suppose I probably should say something. I am in agreement with much of what Councillor Adams has just proposed. The first 4 points he'll get no arguments from me, but I've just got some questions, if I may, on point 5. We're reducing salary costs by removing one Band 11 manager post. I assume this is a manager that is currently in post that we would be looking to make redundant, so there would be presumably some redundancy pay associated with that. So is this 65,900 taking into account any redundancy pay that might come into it? Because we haven't got much wiggle room here in the net impact saving. I admit I don't know how many Band 11 manager posts there are, so it would be useful if we could find that out. And then what would the impact be on the staff below from that manager post being deleted? And also, how will the council decide which Band 11 manager post will be deleted? Because I have this kind of nightmare scenario where, in order to save our money, according to this amendment, we have to get some consultants in to tell us which Band 11 manager to delete, and all of a sudden you've spent 200 grand on consultants before you've saved any money. In principle, I'm not opposed to creating a new post of rural officer. I think that's probably quite a good idea, but I just wonder why we would be doing that now, when the future of Gedling is uncertain at best, and we're going to be in a situation in 2 years' time where either a large part, if not all, of Gedling is going to be part of a urban council with the city, in which case, yes, you could argue that we would need a rural officer, or we're going to be part of an enormous rural council, in which case one might argue that we would need an urban officer to make sure that we're not going the other way. So I haven't quite decided whether I'm going to support this or not, Madam Mayor. I'm going to await the response to my questions if the Conservatives are able to provide them for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Whiting. Councillor Elwood, please.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Yes, as Councillor Whiting has alluded to, some of these items on this list are not unreasonable, and I would certainly agree with the first 4 items as savings. I'm very uncertain about item 5. The council has just about gone through a restructuring process with the management structure, so to unpick that now seems rather strange. And I know bashing managers is very popular, and it's sort of thing you'd read in the Daily Mail, I suppose. But to be honest, you do need managers in a public sector organisation. So I am very sceptical about that. And item 8 for the rural officer, again, I'm a bit sceptical that serves any purpose. I'm not sure what a rural officer does. It would be interesting to know what we're talking about. Are we talking about like a sort of officer that you would have in a sort of area-based initiative? I think that is maybe something that the time for that has passed. It would be nice to afford a new road sweeper, and obviously you need a new driver, but the figures probably don't add up if you take out the item 5. Obviously the numbers don't stack up, so I suppose you'd either have to make do with additional road sweeping staff rather than a new road sweeper. But so I'm at the moment minded not to vote for the amendment, but we'll see what the speakers say before the final vote.
Thank you very much,
Deputy Mayor.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Elwood. Councillor Palin, please.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I want to talk about items 6 and 7, as I want to explain why they are not needed. A new road sweeper is part of the proposed capital budget for environment services, as on page 121 of the capital programme. I'm sorry it's not broken down into the minutiae of the different vehicles that are being bought, but that's the way of things in such a large budget item. It will be a medium-sized sweeper and will replace one of the small ones. The small sweepers are excellent for urban areas and they are often used for pavement sweeping, but they can only cope with a small load and their distance they are able to travel is not great. The medium-sized machine will give us that additional capacity. It will save in travel time, it will improve output, and there will be financial savings from fuel. We don't know if we will need an additional driver because street cleaning operations are about to undergo a complete service review as part of the efficiencies, and with the introduction of white space into the street cleansing service, it could be that the new routes will be possible without a new driver. But that will be part of the efficiency review, and so I don't see that it should be part of this budget because it will all come part of that review. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Palin. Very interesting. Councillor Pearson, please.
Thank you, Deputy Madam Mayor. I just want to give a little bit of feedback on item 4, the Contacts magazine. We had feedback from officers following a consultation that members of the public overwhelmingly wanted to keep the Contacts magazine as a physical magazine, especially the socially isolated, who are saying the only thing they get otherwise for the post from us is a bill for their council tax, and they really like to have a physical Contacts magazine that they can handle. So I really don't want to remove that from the majority of the public that overwhelmingly want to keep it.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Sam Smith, please.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Great to see you back in that seat, by the way. Obviously goes by no surprise that I wholeheartedly support the amendment. I think the time for a rural officer is long overdue, and I think if you represent the areas that I'm proud to represent in Burton, Joyce, Stoke Bardoff and Gedling, there's a standard joke that they call this council Arnold Borough Council, and I'm going to come on to that in a future item, but it is really key now with LGR that my colleague to the right, he's never been called that before, mentioned about LGR. Let's just highlight the importance of hearing from the rural areas under local government reorganisation. There's 3 proposals been put into the government. One of them would see Gedling joining a rural council, to which I wholeheartedly support. The other 2 would see all or half of Gedling be carved up and be given to a urban-focused council, which is Nottingham City. And what I really worry about, and Councillor Clark will know that I've raised this at County Hall as well, what I really worry about is if that's the case, the rural villages that are within Gedling Borough, whether that be Ravenshead, Lamley or Burton, Joyce or Stoke Bardoff, will be, in my fear, completely forgotten, completely ignored. You've got a city council who only know how to run NCT buses at an arm's length or trams that can get you from one end of the city to the other in no time. They have no experience whatsoever about house building in green areas and the issue you have if the topography is off and the flooding that will cause to neighbourhoods, which we suffer heavily in Burton, Joyce and Stoke Bardoff. They have no idea how to support communities who are elderly and become isolated in their old age when their partners and family and friends die off, and then they go to the village hall once a week to meet up with friends. No idea whatsoever how to support that with the community grants or anything such as that. Absolutely no idea about housing and the priority of protecting the green belt for biodiversity and access to the outdoors for well-being. And I think what this post can do is make sure that voice is heard loudly and clearly in the LGR debate as we move forward, but particularly working with officers who are already working on the implementation of LGR. And I think that's great. Also, we suffer really badly, as Mr. Avery and the planning team will know, about the enforcement of planning conditions in rural areas if the temporary drainage on sites that are on hills isn't enforced, villages flood. And it impacts people's lives. And we have a real difficulty of making sure that that's enforced. This rural officer can help with that. It can help with tackling loneliness, as I've said. It can help with supporting grant applications for village halls or societies or coffee mornings that struggle to access funding. They can help with that. There's so much that this post can do for the benefit of Gedling Borough between now and LGR, but particularly in the LGR debate, that I think it's long overdue. And if this amendment gets voted down, then I hope we can have an adult conversation after this meeting to see how we can do it. The Contacts magazine, again, if you speak to people in Newstead Division Ward or the Dumbles or Trent Valley or anywhere with a village, they will tell you that they read the village magazine that comes round and is delivered by volunteers far more than a Contacts magazine that's focused on Arnold and Carlton, and they will find it far more relevant to them because it advertises their local events. So I think that's 36 grand we can save straight away. The deletion, just to reassure colleagues, item 1 and 5 of the amendment relates to portfolios and managers that don't have a budget. So they're currently in place at the moment, but they're not responsible with a budget line. So their impact at the time of appointment may have been great and less so now. And there are ways that HR and stuff can have a look at that. Picking up on Councillor Paling's point about the current general fund plan, just to make clear that Labour's plan for the road sweeper is a replacement of one that's off the road at the moment. The Conservative amendment is for an additional one. So with Labour's you only get 2, with ours you would get 3, and we think that's really important. There's pavements in Stoke Bardolph, if you walk down them, they've still got the autumn fall of 2016 on the pavement, and we really need to clear that up. So this amendment addresses the whole of the borough and really does put a light on important things that are coming up in the future, and I encourage the whole chamber to vote for it on that basis. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sam Smith. Councillor Bestwick, please.
Thank you, Deputy and Madam Mayor. I want to mainly speak about the need of an extra road sweeper. I do remember Councillor Clark saying to me, I think last year and the year before, that they would be looking to an additional road sweeper in this budget. And as my colleague Councillor Smith's pointed out, it's not an additional road sweeper, it's a replacement for one that already exists. Members may recall that I've spoken on this subject a few times, not just at budget. So presumably that's the reason I do get emails and correspondence from all over the borough, not just in my own ward, people complaining that the leaves aren't cleared off their pavement or road well into the autumn and into the winter. So I do believe there is a need for this extra road sweeper. If the leaves aren't swept up, we know it causes flooding. It's a safety issue, particularly for vulnerable residents. So it seems to me that it should be a priority, which does bring me on to the magazine. As Councillor Pearson said, they overwhelmingly wanted the magazine. Well, clearly we represent different areas of the borough. Speaking to my residents, would they rather have a magazine delivered or would they rather have their pavement swept? And it's 100% have their pavement swept, get their parish magazine and catch up with Gedling magazine online if they want to read it. So actually, I will tell you what one of them said to me. They said, we get our magazine delivered, but we can't get our pavement swept. So maybe next time the road sweeper can bring the parish magazine and they can sweep our pavements at the same time. It's so bad, Deputy Madam Mayor, that actually Limby Parish Council pay extra
to have their pavements swept because we can't manage to get round often enough. So for me, that is why I'll be supporting this amendment, because I believe that providing basic services like having pavements and roads swept is more important than a Glothian magazine, even though it tells us lots about how well we're doing and how brilliant Arnold is. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bestwick. Councillor Boyd-Elliott, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not to go over what my colleagues have already said, but to echo those. The rural areas are forgotten. We live in the villages. The villages have the most trees. We need the sweepers. I'd like to commend, actually, I won't name him, but he's done an amazing job today in Calverton, in his Schmidt, but we don't see the large road sweeper. So the roads are getting swept, but we have to ask the Schmidt to go in certain directions. It's that collection of leaves adds to the flooding, adds to vermin. We get little ratties, rolling rats everywhere, because they can just feed off things, can't they? My residents and the surrounding villages pay the highest council tax in the borough, and they receive the least services. It's not a joke. It's already been alluded to. It's classed as Arnold Council now, isn't it? It's not Gedling Borough Council anymore. Everything gets spent in Arnold. We're seeing fewer and fewer services. They want to cut our services in Calverton. I won't go on about the leisure centre, but that's one of the last services available in my village. It's just not on, is it? We understand that rural officer, if we could appoint a rural officer, they would have an understanding of what the rural communities need. They would have an understanding. We're getting increased developments. It's one thing that you are responsible for now is putting houses on us, and you're dumping houses in Calverton. Yeah, we're not a village anymore. We're getting increased number of properties being built and fewer services, but we're paying increased council tax, and I guarantee you're going to ask us to pay even more this evening, and it will get passed, won't it, because you've got the numbers. But my residents want more for that money. I'm sure if you knocked on the doors, they would happily pay that increase if they got the service, but they're not getting the service. And how many more times? I've sat here for 12 years now, and I think for the last 6 years, I've asked for an additional road sweeper. It's not, I think a couple of years ago, you wanted to spend £75,000 on a building to have new windows. Have you done them? Not all of them. Okay, so that's £75,000 that came out of the budget. I can't remember what it was last year when I asked for a new road sweeper. And this year, please, can we have another road sweeper so my residents can at least have something for their money? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Boyd-Elliott. Councillor Maltby, please.
I will also be supporting this this amendment. My reason basically is, first and foremost, with regards to the Contacts magazine, I do believe this should be an online service. We have stopped delivering bin calendars to all the houses now, but we can provide those to people that request it as a paper copy. Why can't we do the same with the magazine? Added to the need for a new road sweeper, we have in Gedling over the past few years seen a significant increase in houses and new streets, but we've not seen an increase in resources to deal with that, and a road sweeper is urgently needed. Even if we replace the other one, we're not managing doing the sweeping of all the roads as it is. Added to the problem, I'm not going into political blame one way or the other, we all know the state of our roads locally. There's a lot more grit now catching up at the side. Stones are being flicked up at people. I know that's putting more pressure on you as a Labour cabinet, but it is something we've got to deal with because people are getting hurt now with stones being flicked up, cars are being damaged just by the amount of grit that have come away from the crumbling potholes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Maltby. Anyone else wishing to speak on this?
Councillor Meads.
Councillor Meads, please.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. When I first saw this amendment, the first thing I thought was, when I vote against it, what picture's Councillor Maltby going to use of me on Facebook? But I'm listening to him. I've actually changed my mind a bit. The Contact magazine. I don't know anybody that does read it, and there's been a consultation, but it's actually in the magazine. So saying people are overwhelmingly support it without any figures, I don't know what that is. It might be 80 people out of 85 people want to read it again. I don't know. The leaf sweeping and stuff, I have volunteered to do that every year, multiple times a year, me and some of my friends, because we can't get the leaf sweeper. We're always told it's in another part of the 8-week cycle somewhere else. So I'm all for that. And there's another budget item in the capital expenditure. It's these audio recorders that are getting a bit old now. That's 31,000. So I think a new road sweeper is miles more important than just replacing some nuisance audio recorders. I am worried about this item 5. I don't think we've had a proper answer about that. I mean, is this somebody who's costing us 65 grand a year, or is that including the redundancy pay? I don't think we didn't get an answer for that, did we? All right, okay. But overall, I'm in favour. I mean, the thing about the rural officer, there's no real explanation for that. But if that's somebody who's going to look after the rural areas, I'm all for that, because what we had last year, we had the latest round of the UK Prosperity Fund, and I think 97% of it was spent in the main urban area of the borough. And a lot of parish councils like Woodborough, Lamley, they don't even know that they're allowed to even claim it. They didn't know till I told them. They thought that was just for Arnold. So they've missed out on a fortune, over the last 3 or 4 years. So generally, I'm in favour of it. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Councillor Meads. Anyone else? Councillor Adams, please. Martin Smith, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. And thank you to all those who've contributed to this debate relating to our amendment. A number of the points that I was going to make have already been made, but I will probably repeat some of those. Just to clarify about the removal of the Band 11 post, I think we're probably all aware that the Section 151 officer checks any amendment for the legality of it all. So this is all fully costed. We're not in a position this evening to talk about about individual persons and talk about give names of posts, etc. I don't think this is the appropriate forum to do that. But this has been fully costed and it's all been agreed by the Section 151 officer. Talking about money, though, we have for a number of years heard from the leader of this council, and in particular his former deputy, about the lack of money given by central government to this council, compared to virtually every other council in the country. And whilst, and I know Councillor Clark mentioned this, whilst the current settlement is not a like-for-like one, I, like many others in this chamber, was expecting a large uplift. This has clearly not happened. And no doubt, those who mistakenly believed that our 2 Labour MPs and this Labour government would change things, they've probably been left very, very disappointed by those empty promises. However, we are where we are, and services to our residents do need delivering. The proposed budget for 2026-27 does fulfil many of those objectives. However, I'd like to think that our Conservative amendment goes a little bit further and certainly wants to provide better road sweeping, particularly of those areas that suffer from high leaf fall, as been mentioned before. Some of those are rural, but many are not. There's many urban areas that suffer from high leaf fall. Gullies are blocked. And the next sweeper, and I think one of Councillor Meads probably mentioned this, somebody mentioned it, they're on an 8-week schedule. But the gullies seem to get blocked in week 1. They have to wait a hell of a long time before the next road sweep. We've mentioned before, I think Councillor Maltby mentioned about the dreadful state of our roads, which Reform are obviously struggling to come to grips with. We've got debris all over the roads. We'd love to get our road sweepers out to deal with it, but we haven't got the resources to do so. So that's why we as a Conservative group are urging this council to push towards purchasing another road sweeper. Councillor Maltby also mentioned about the number of the miles of extra roads, the miles of extra pavements that have grown in this borough since we initially had 2 road sweepers and 2 pavement sweepers. We've increased the number of roads. We haven't increased the capacity. We're wanting to increase it to 3, not from 2. Going back to the very first point we made, yes, this amendment will take away some unnecessary allowances. But remember, this isn't a personal attack on anybody any of those post holders. It's a genuine desire to offer far more to our residents. And to sum it up, we want to provide services, not salaries. So please support our amendment. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you very much, Councillor Martin Smith. Anyone else? No, Councillor Adams to reply. No. Oh, sorry. I didn't see Councillor Strong. Sorry.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I wasn't going to say anything because the volume of hot air seems to be increasing, but I can't resist commenting more than anything else the fact that the proposal is for the creation of a job and yet the deletion of various other allowances and jobs. The posted rural officer may be all laudable, but it's going to last for less than 2 years, or 2 years at the most perhaps, and there'll be costs of recruitment, and then at the end of it, depending on what happens in the future with local government reorganisation, there may even be severance pay costs. I can understand perhaps all those people in various villages think they're being neglected, but they have got very vociferous councillors. I don't think they are. The job description described so far seems to be very vague, and I think it's probably a waste of time and money to even contemplate it. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. We may, as the leader says, have a split borough. We might all be in a rural county, large rural county. So we really don't know, and the creation of a job with very little point to it is a waste of time. So please, can we just get rid of the idea? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Strong. Anyone else before I ask Councillor Palin? Oh, you've spoken, haven't you?
Is it okay that I seek clarity in that 1 minute Sam Smith was talking about just a replacement vehicle, which to my mind would not require an additional driver. Then all other contributors were saying that they needed an additional, and I'm not quite sure where their costings are.
So you're just clarifying?
I'm clarifying that, but I'm especially clarifying that we are going to have the review of all street cleansing services, which will include how many posts we need and how appropriate is an 8-weekly cycle or not.
Okay. Well, the proposal is for an additional one. Can Samson say it?
Yeah, just a point of clarification, Madam Deputy Mayor, if I may. What I was referring to, Councillor Paling, is that the Conservative amendment is for an additional road sweeper, which would require an additional driver. The Labour substantive motion, which is the budget, is a replacement of one that already exists. So your budget would still have 2 sweepers. Our alternative would make it 3. Hence the difference. I hope that clarifies for the Chamber. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. Councillor Adams, reply.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Mayor, and thank you everybody in the room for your points tonight on our amendment. I think what's crystal clear, if you drive on the roads at the moment, we've already discussed the current state of the roads out there, and you know, I've had a headline this week about the worst road in Nottinghamshire, which is on the A612 in Colwick, and the byproduct of that, which has been mentioned a number of times, is what happens when these potholes appear is all of the contents of those, i.e. the aggregate that makes up the tarmac, ends up going somewhere. And generally it either ends up on the highway, on the road itself, or it ends up in the main, from what I've seen specifically on the stretch of Colwick Road, along the actual pavement itself. So what we found is throughout this is there's a couple of issues with that. On the one hand, yes, you've got the unsightly look of a pavement covered in stones, and I've already mentioned already about civic pride, and it's something that I really feel strongly about, and something I feel as a society we need to grasp stronger. But part of civic pride is ensuring that our roads and pavements not only look good, but they're also usable, Deputy Madam Mayor. And in that context, what I'm talking about is if you are on a shared cycleway, which we have along the A612 in Colwick, if you're driving along that shared cycleway and you hit one of these effective marbles on that pavement, you are going over the handlebars. I could have said that another way, I won't. And as a result, you can end up severely hurting yourself potentially as you're doing that. So, you know, we're not just talking here about the way something looks, we're talking about the way something operates. And so that's why part of this amendment is key. First of all, like I said, that as soon as those potholes do empty, that they are collected and put in the back of the wagon, taken away and disposed of in the right manner. Leaves are obviously also a huge issue. Councillor Smith mentioned about the 2016 leaf fall, which still has residual fallout across the whole of Nottinghamshire still, and we have sections of Burton Joyce where I'm sure there is the remnants of artefacts from the early Triassic period, as well as a result of the lack of street sweeping. So you look, this is why it's so important. We have the knock-on effect of that build-up in those gullies that then leads to issues we have in Netherfield, which I'm sure will be mentioned later on, where we have a build-up of this leaf litter in gutters that then overspills and we end up with flooding in the centre of Netherfield. We also then subsequently as well across Burton Joyce and specifically across certain other areas, Stoke Bardolph we can talk about as well, again where this build-up happens, that water is unable to escape and so we get surface water flooding. That is problematic in many ways. It can lead to, as people are driving through it, waves are created, small waves admittedly, but they're enough to push water down somebody's pathway and into their property, and effectively creating what is a non-flood zone area into an area that does get flooded as a result of a lack of maintenance. And I'd argue that actually a lot of the problems we have currently across all of our shire is created by an issue of a lack of maintenance rather than any other outside factor. And so bringing this online, bringing this additional sweeper, which we've campaigned for year after year to add to our ability to fight these different issues, and whether that be the increased level of moisture in the climate caused by all the things that we like to talk about, whether that be down to issues around climate gas and things like that that have then subsequently caused problems with that knock-on effect, puts water into the highway. You know, we should be able to deal with that. We should be able to cope with it. We can't, because we are being let down by maintenance, and that's what's key. That's what's absolutely fundamental to us succeeding with looking after our residential areas, and like I said, stopping those areas that aren't current flood zones from taking on water that they don't need. I'd like to thank you, Councillor Strong, for calling us vociferous. We'll take that. Thank you very much. It's a praise that we are very happy to take. I prefer relentless, but you know, words are words. In terms of other things as well, we've talked about flooding. We talk about the BESS, which is being built. We've got a battery storage centre coming to the north of Trent Valley at the moment. We've got real concerns about that. What we don't want to do is add to that problem by more gutters being filled up with leaves and other detritus, which fundamentally causes a problem with dealing with that water. We don't need any additional help in causing problems with us with flooding. Now, I appreciate we are hunting for money here, and we're looking across the whole of the budget. We're looking across the whole of our Gedling budget to find this space for this money, because we really believe this is absolutely fundamental to our area's future, but also obviously our residents' peace of mind in the place they live. So, look, I want to thank everybody that's spoken about this. I want to thank all my thank all my colleagues for their fantastic words. I want to thank the Section 151 officer for all of her fantastic work on our amendment, and also the Chief Exec as well. And actually, I don't often do this, and it's not because I don't appreciate what everybody does here, because I do. But I'm also and I want to thank every member of staff that's been involved in putting this budget together, because it's not an easy task. We are faced with very difficult circumstances, whether that be politically driven or not. And you all turn up and you all do a fantastic job for all of us and enable us to deliver for our residents. So I want to put on record tonight my thanks to all of you for that. And that pretty much wraps it up. So thank you for listening. I do appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Adams. Councillor Clark, to close on the amendment,
Yeah,
please.
thanks, Madam Mayor. I find that a bit strange that 10 months on from a new administration at County Hall, when the previous highway portfolio is criticising the new regime that's down there. I mean, we all criticise. I mean, it's got worse, but we have had pretty bad weather. There's no doubt in that, and that's not an excuse, because they've been allowed over 16 years to deteriorate. We've got the horrible job of trying to make life better, and I think we're all doing a good, across all the councillors in this chamber are trying their best to alleviate some of those problems. The first 3 items on there will stay. They're not deleting those. There's some work, significant work, when somebody gets their act together down at Westminster and tells us which way we are going. There'll be a tremendous amount of work placed on these officers that are sat before you tonight, Madam Mayor, and other officers in the building to prepare this place ready and fit for purpose when it goes over to whichever authority, whichever the government person, whoever decides it, will say, well, you're going to go that way. Then the work starts, and we've got to be ready, because the first of, if it is, we've seen the change of ideas before and change of dates, but if that is, that's the 1st of April, and that is 2028. So that's coming up. So we'll need those people there, and there'll be more work for those policyholders, portfolios, etc. to do. The reduction, where are we? I'm staying away from the reduction in Band 11. I can have thoughts on that. That really is down to the Chief Executive and his crew, because they're the iron fire of that. It's a suggestion that is worth looking at, but that is over to the officers there. Removal of contacts, I'd still be very difficult, Madam Mayor, trying to do that, because we've done the surveys, we've asked the people, and the body of, it always said it's just Arnold, but 80% of us live in this borough on 20% of the land, so they're going to be, they're going to be in a bunch together, and those are the people that actually like the Contacts magazine. That again, I would keep going for the next 2 years, or depending on what happens at the end of this year. The road sweepers, I think that's been explained there. Certainly would need some more. I know we've done far more, and the department's been really stretched on it. They've just done a load of the Collick Loop Road, and to do it, which wasn't really our job to do, but we did it. And I think in the end, it was so tight for some of the small sweepers, they couldn't get down. So they actually, it was bodily moved, a lot of it. A lot of staff involved for that. But it is worth looking at. Are there other ways? There's somebody come out there with a magic light. They've got this thing that fills the potholes up. Let's have a look at it. Let's see what there is. If there is something there, then we should be in the field for that. The rural officer, I quite like the idea of that, and I think it's something that I tried through the police authority when I used to chair the police authority to get a rural police, and in rural policing gradually, it was protecting farms, the villages, and places like that, because you pass a farm and you don't realise how much there's on there, how much equipment, etc. But also is the economic benefit of the rural area, and I think that possibly I'll ask the Chief Exec, and we feed it into the other areas that are now going to change, and see that cannot be incorporated into, see if it can be incorporated into the bids that go forward once we know which direction we're going in. But well thought out, not going to agree with it, neither of my group, so we are going to vote it down, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Clark. So this is a vote on the amendment, and as it's a budget decision, this vote will need to be taken as a recorded vote. So, Mike, would you like to take the recorded vote, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Yes, this is a vote on the Conservative amendment. So, when I call your name, please state either for, against, or abstain. Councillor Adams.
For.
Madam Deputy Mayor.
Against.
Councillor Beswick.
For.
Councillor Brocklebank.
Against.
Councillor Clark. Councillor Creamer.
Against.
Councillor Duncan. Councillor Elliott.
For.
Councillor David Ellis.
Against.
Councillor Rachel Ellis.
Against.
Councillor Roxanne Ellis.
Against.
Councillor Elwood.
Against.
Councillor Feeney. Councillor Fox.
Against.
Councillor Greensmith.
For.
Councillor Hunt.
Against.
Councillor Maltby. Councillor Ron McCrossan. Councillor Viv McCrossan. Councillor Meads.
For.
Councillor Nyuk.
Against.
Councillor Paling.
Against.
Councillor Pearson. Councillor Catherine Pope.
Against.
Councillor Graham Pope. Councillor Martin Smith.
For.
Councillor Sam Smith.
For.
Councillor Strong.
Against.
Councillor Towsey Hinton. Councillor Wheeler.
Against.
Councillor Whiting. For was that?
For.
For, okay. And Councillor Wilkinson.
Against.
That vote is lost, Madam Mayor.
So, thank you very much. The vote is lost. We've got a second amendment from the independent group. The wording's going to be circulated.
They haven't proposed it yet, so just...
Oh, Councillor Whiten to move.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Should I wait until it's been handed out, or do you want me to start now? I just propose it.
then.
Okay, I'll just propose it for now.
Thank you. And Councillor Mead, you're going to second, aren't you?
Yes, Deputy Madam Mayor, I'm seconding it and reserving the right to speak.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, Ben will give. I've got it here if you need. Ben will give you one.
Go step for the paper. Thank you.
Councillor Sam Smith.
Councillor Sam Smith.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Just once the proposer's introduced it, could I ask for an adjournment after that, please? Thank you.
Yes, okay.
With pleasure, Madam
you.
Deputy Mayor, thank you. And can I start by thanking the Section 151 officer and the Chief Exec with their assistance in proposing this amendment, which I think is quite modest, but I think will make a big difference to our communities. It's not quite as radical as my colleagues on the far left, if I can return the favour. But what we are suggesting is deleting the independent party leader's special responsibility allowance, because some things you just can't put a price on. Deleting 2 portfolio holders who no longer have any budget responsibility. Deleting the post of policy advisor and removing the Contacts magazine. And this is going to pay for an increase in our members' pots by £1,400 each. I don't think I need to say much about the first 4 items that we're suggesting removing, because we've already covered that in the previous discussion. But can I just say about Contacts magazine, I know we've had this discussion before that when the Lib Dems have put it forward, but the most recent edition of Contacts magazine, which was winter 2025, had this survey, and you could win a prize if you filled in this survey and told us whether you like Contacts magazine or not. So not only are we self-selecting, because if you don't read the magazine, you can't respond to the survey by definition. So everyone who responds to the survey reads the magazine. And then you've got the added incentive of a prize as well. But I think we do need to see those figures, because certainly the people of Colic that I speak to read my fantastic newsletter that I provide on a bi-monthly basis, which gives them actual stuff that's going on in Colic, rather than having to read stuff that's going on around the borough that's perhaps not that relevant. Now, I do take the point about people who are living in social isolation, and those people are hard to reach, but I can certainly tell you that no one I know reads the Contacts magazine, and no one who I've spoken to about removing it to online only would miss it. We hold a lot of email data of people who have signed up for bin alerts. There's no reason that that couldn't be replicated. I know you can't just transfer the data over, but there's no reason why it couldn't be replicated. And people could sign up for something like a Contacts magazine. And of course, if it was online only, it could be produced even more regularly, because we could send it out every month or however often we wanted to. And then the information wouldn't be out of date so quickly. And that would actually be a better way of keeping in touch. And as someone said in the previous debate, we could print off copies where necessary for a very small fee. But what I want to focus on, Madam Deputy Mayor, is our proposal to increase our members' pots by £1,400 each, because I think our members' pots are actually one of the most important functions we have in this council. Because as councillors, we are on the ground in our communities in a way that other councillors are not, that staff members are not. We know the community groups, we know the needs, and I think we are best placed to support those organisations. In my own ward of Colic, we have the fantastic Colic Theatre Club that I know many other colleagues have supported and I support on a regular basis. We do a Christmas tree light switch on in Colic Church. Colic gets no support from the parish council or from, the church gets no support from the parish council or Gedling Borough Council to put that event on. That is paid for by my members' pot. I've done work with Colic School, with Netherfield School, with St George's Centre. All of these places and the volunteers do fantastic work. Just think, and I'm sure you're all sitting there now, colleagues, thinking what you could do with this extra £1,400 in your ward, in your pots. So I think take what Councillor Clark said about there's going to be more work for people to do in light of LGR, but I don't think portfolio holders are going to be able to do much work if they don't have a budget to back them up. So I think we can safely take that away. But the benefit to our community of that extra £57,400 across the borough to our community groups, I think would be very beneficial and would be welcomed by our residents if this was supported this evening, Madam Deputy Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Whiten. It's been proposed by Councillor Sam Smith for an adjournment. So could we have a seconder, please? Councillor Boyd-Elliott, thank you. And all in favour. Or are we all in favour? 10 minutes? Is that okay with everybody? Okay, right. Right. I think we've... Oh. Right, we're all back. Okay, anybody wishing to speak on the amendment?
Councillor Bestwick.
Councillor Bestwick, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I'm sure the eagle-eyed amongst us would have spotted that some of the things on this amendment are very similar to the Conservative amendment. There's just one thing I'd like to pick up on, if I may, and that's the increase in the members' pot by £1,400 each. Some of you may know I'm the Shadow Cabinet Member for Finance at County Hall. I had the honour of presenting an alternative budget there on Thursday. One of the proposals was to increase the County Divisional Fund from 3,000 to 6,000 for all of the reasons that Councillor Whiting very eloquently mentioned, which I won't repeat. So I'd be very much in favour of this, an extra £1,400 each. We can spend it in lots of different ways, helping lots of different organisations and community groups. And if we don't get our extra road sweeper, Madam Deputy Mayor, maybe they could even use it to sweep the roads and the pavements. So I will be voting in favour of this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bestwick. Anyone else? Councillor Elwood, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Yes, this looks a reasonable amendment. We've kind of discussed the first four items previously, so I won't revisit those items. And as for the reason, as other councillors have mentioned, the increasing the members' pots does make sense. It would bring it back into line with how the figure it was, I think, 2 years ago. Actually, a little bit more, maybe. I can't remember now. Yeah, it was. I think at one point we did have it at 2,000 per member. So it just gives you that little bit more flexibility in using it for maybe things in your ward where you want to maybe use it to actually repair items or actual physical improvements, as well as obviously giving to the voluntary groups. So yeah, we'd be in favour of that. So I think we're minded to vote for the amendment.
Thank you very much, Councillor Elwood. Anyone else? Catherine Fox.
Thank you. I just want to raise a point about the Contacts magazine, although it's been spoken about quite a lot this evening. Just to say that the Contacts magazine has already been reduced by 2 copies. This does go out to our most isolated and most vulnerable, those that may be digitally excluded, and it provides valuable information. The surveys that went out on this, I have seen them on our social media platforms, and I believe they've gone out on the website as well, so not just in the Contacts magazine, as was said earlier. And we either listen to the public or we don't. And they voted that they would like the Contacts magazine to continue, and they clearly see the information in it as being valuable, otherwise they wouldn't have voted that way. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Fox. Anyone else to speak? Councillor Meads, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I'm just going to thank the 151 officer first, because we've been going backwards and forwards for a week now, not just on this, but we're trying to do something a bit bigger than this, but we've exhausted every avenue. And it's the last, we're getting towards the end of Gedling Borough. We wanted to go out in a bit of a splash, but we reduced to this. Regarding the Contacts magazine, like Councillor also said, there was a prize if you responded to say you liked it, and I find that a bit strange. And talking about listening to people, listening to the residents have overwhelmingly done recent consultations last year, and that's not really been taken into account with the decisions that were made afterwards. But at Calverton, we've decided to start, at the parish council, decided to do a full colour 4-page leaflet, and that's getting printed, and I think it's about £400 for 4,000 copies. So, I mean, I'm sure we could have done something here with the people that signed up for it, and it could have been delivered by councillors of people that actually really wanted it. But yeah, like I say, I said earlier, the UK Prosperity Fund, 97% of it was spent in the Greater Arnold area, this latest round. Me and James, she's not here tonight, but we went to the doing at the Richard Everett Centre in March, and we thought we were going to be bidding on you know, our 9% of that money, and it was already decided by officers already. So none of the rural areas got a look in, and it's the same, you know, all the time. So that's why we're all for it, and we'll see how the votes go. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Meads. Councillor Whiting, then, would you like to reply?
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, just a second. Smith, sorry.
I mean, it wouldn't be an amendment if I didn't speak, would it? Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. I normally quite enjoy the budget meeting, but I've agreed with the far right twice today, and it's getting a bit extreme, if you don't mind me saying so. Anyway, obviously, great work, chaps, on the Control-C and Control-V buttons on your new laptops, because it seems you've scrolled through the historic, wonderful amendments that have been put forward by my Conservative colleagues and copied and pasted them, which I applaud you for doing, because it is great to see that people are finally reading them and taking them forward. So thank you for that, and we support that. As has already been said, the portfolios and the policy advisors that are put forward in this amendment do not carry a budget line on Councillor Clark's budget this evening, so have therefore served their purpose in terms of the cost benefit to our taxpayers, and that's why the Independents are putting this forward as the Conservatives did. Great work, let's do it. Contacts magazine, I know we've had this debate throughout this evening, but I think Labour councillors have chosen not to listen. The point has been made by a colleague in the chamber already this evening, which I reiterate. The people who filled in that survey are the people reading it. The people who haven't read the magazine and don't read the magazine haven't taken part in the survey. Do you know why? They haven't read about the survey. It is not rocket science. Even the Deputy Mayor understands the point I've just made by laughing away, so thank you. It is not rocket science. If you ask everybody who drives a Vauxhall, would you buy a Vauxhall, guess what they're going to say? Yes. And if you don't ask everybody who drives a Peugeot, would you buy a Vauxhall, you're not going to get any no's, are you? It is not rocket science. So let's stop pretending it is and using the data to whatever stream you wish. And as Councillor Maltby pointed out earlier, this Labour Council's already cancelled the bin delivery cards, and you've come up with a way that people who aren't online can receive them. Well done. Brilliant, fantastic. My residents benefit from that. Fantastic. You can do the same for the magazine for those 3 or 4 people that replied to your survey to say they read it. Tell them it's available to collect at reception next time they're in Arnold, because that's where all the readers are. Totally agree with increasing the members' pot. I was horrified at the email that went out asking for our views a few weeks ago at the proposals to cancel it, whilst we continue to give year after year to organisations, Play Forum, etc., without asking for the benefit that has to our residents. Yet the councillor pot that benefits thousands and thousands of residents was put under threat, and I think that's a shameful step to take by this council, and I really hope, I've had it on good authority, that won't be happening, and I'm glad and will be pleased to see that decision made eventually. So increase it, absolutely. We did the same at the county. We know better than anybody where the need is in our community, and it makes a great impact. Finally, I'd just like to say that although it is a copy and paste to the Conservatives, as it's been presented by 2 ex-Labour members, I wish you better luck with the vote than we did. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. Councillor Maltby.
I would just very quickly like to say that although this online survey was completed, I fail to see how we can tell a person's age or vulnerability by completing an online survey. And if people are capable of completing an online survey, then surely they're capable of reading the Contacts magazine online.
Thank you, Councillor Maltby. Anyone else? Right, I'll ask Councillor Whiting now to close or reply. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. And can I just reassure everyone that I and Councillor Meads didn't know what the previous amendment was going to be before we put this forward. It probably would have put us off, to be honest, if we'd have known that that was coming. And I'm sorry to disappoint Councillor Bestwick, but I'm afraid I didn't sit in front of my TV last week and watch the County Council budget meeting, so I didn't know you'd proposed this. But even a stopped clock is right twice a day. Can I just say on the Contacts magazine, because I think this is an important issue about social isolation and digital exclusion, and I do take Councillor Fox's point on that, but I think we should have slightly higher ambitions for our socially isolated residents than shoving a magazine through their door once every 3 months and saying that we've ticked a box on social isolation. The people in our communities who are doing more than that to support people with social isolation are the community centres that put on the coffee morning. They're the churches that put on the knit and natter group. They're the Women's Institute. They're the men's chat groups who are springing up across our borough. They're often small. They're often not charities, so they don't have access to big pots. We know who they are in our communities. We can support them with our members' pots. And I think the people who go to the Netherfield Knit and Natter on a Tuesday and Thursday at the Loco Centre that I've supported with my fund before, the people who go to the Colic Church coffee mornings that I've supported, appreciate that social contact a lot more than sitting by themselves reading a magazine once every 3 months. So I just hope, Madam Deputy Mayor, against hope, that we can get this through and we can put this money in the hands of the people who actually need it, rather than voting to keep it in the hands of a few councillors. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Whiting. Councillor Clark, would you like to close on the amendment, please?
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
probably could say, I'll refer you to the answer I gave earlier, but I think Tony Blair said that, didn't he? He used to say it a lot. But the deletion of 2 portfolio holders, deletion of policy advisor, and one of my members quite rightly reminded me we have got one rid of 1 portfolio holder or remove that post, which I've been carrying for, 2 years. Deletion of policy advisors, 2 of those, I think it was, that have gone already. And that's it. I'm not going to go through the long list again. I don't agree with it. The group will vote against it and we'll vote it down. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a vote on the amendment then. This is the amendment given by Councillor Whiting, and it's going to be a recorded vote again. So, Mike, would you like to do the recorded vote? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Yes, just to confirm, it's a vote on the independent amendment. So, as usual, when I call your name, please state for, against or abstain. Councillor Adams.
For.
Madam Deputy Mayor.
Against.
Councillor Bestwick.
For.
Councillor Brocklebank.
Against.
Councillor Clark.
Against.
Councillor Creamer.
Against.
Councillor Duncan. Councillor Elliott. Councillor David Ellis.
Against.
Councillor Rachel Ellis.
Against.
Councillor Roxanne Ellis.
Against.
Councillor Elwood.
For.
Councillor Feeney.
Against.
Councillor Fox.
Against.
Councillor Greensmith.
For.
Councillor Hunt.
Against.
Councillor Maltby. Councillor Ron McCrossan. Councillor Viv McCrossan. Councillor Meads.
For.
Councillor Nyuk.
Against.
Councillor Paling.
Against.
Councillor Pearson. Councillor Catherine Pope.
Against.
Councillor Graham Pope. Councillor Martin Smith.
For.
Councillor Sam Smith.
For.
Councillor Strong.
Against.
Councillor Towsey Hinton. For. Councillor Wheeler.
Against.
Councillor Whiting.
For.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Against.
Madam Mayor, that vote is lost.
Thank you very much. Right, the vote is lost. So we are going back to the original motion. Is there anyone wishing to speak on the original motion, please? Councillor Elwood first.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Hopefully this is the last time I'll be speaking tonight. The capital programme in this budget initiates the Carlton Active redevelopment of Richard Herod Centre with £2.1 million in capital spend earmarked for the first phase of the development of the new leisure centre. Despite the best efforts of council officers, it has proven financially impossible to retain an indoor bowls facility at the proposed new leisure centre. There is therefore a risk that indoor bowls will cease to be provided in Gedling Borough, and that through no fault of their own, Gedling Indoor Bowls Club will have to close. We believe that the Borough Council has a moral duty to find a new home for the Indoor Bowls Club. So far, non-financial support has been offered to the club, but we believe that this will not be sufficient to ensure a new home is found for the club away from the Richard Herod site. It is certain that without additional external funding, the Bowls Club will not be able to pay for a new base to operate from. As such, we believe that the best way forward will be for the Borough Council to provide financial support for the club. Such financial support could be used to pay for external consultancy who might be required to provide the very specialised expertise in applying for sports body funding. As such, it is very disappointing that there is no such commitment in the budget to provide such financial support to the Bowls Club. It is for this reason that the Lib Dem group will be voting against the administration's budget proposal tonight. Thank you, Deputy Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Elwood. Councillor Whiting, please.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Can I associate myself with what Councillor Elwood has just said? There's a lot in this budget that I think we should welcome and that I do welcome. Councillor Clark referred at the start of his remarks a couple of hours ago to the multi-year settlement that we've been given, and we've been asking for that for a long time, and it would be churlish not to say congratulations to the Labour government on bringing that forward now that they've done so. And as we look through the figures, it's good that we are going to be spending more on public protection. I hope that means we might get some CCTV around the Colic Rec. It's good that we're going to have more money for environmental services, and I hope that will include some work on bulky waste collection. I've had some discussions with officers about that, which might cut down on fly tipping. More money for lifestyle, health and well-being is also welcome. I am slightly concerned about the community's budget being cut to zero, and I wonder if Councillor Clark, if he sums up on this debate, might tell us what events and grants this has been supporting in the past that are now not going to be supported, and whether there's been any consultation with those that are involved in those schemes, and whether there's been an impact assessment on that as well, because I think that's something important that we should No. The eagle-eyed members will notice that there's not anything in this budget about the resurfacing of the Colwick Rec car park, which is a favourite topic of mine. That's because it's being resurfaced and it starts on Monday. So I'm particularly thrilled about that, because it was 2 years ago that I sat here and moved my amendment to resurface the Colwick car park. So who knows, maybe in 2 years we'll be extending the members' pots just in time to be abolished. But can I thank, in all seriousness, can I thank the Chief Exec and all the officers and the leader who have been involved in pushing that over the line. And I look forward to donning a hard hat, no doubt, for the photo when it is completed in a few weeks' time. It's become a bit of a tradition of mine, Madam Deputy Mayor, to quote the chair of the Local Government Association when talking about local government finances. And I was reading this from Councillor Louise Gittins today, which I think speaks certainly for me and will probably speak for a lot of us. And it speaks to the wider point in terms of local government funding. And Councillor Gittins said this: "It's good that funding levels have increased in recent years after having issued stark warnings about the financial black hole facing councils for more than a decade. But despite a much needed multi-year funding settlement, which has improved councils' financial certainty, real concern remains over the sector's capacity to cope over the coming years. And the LGA will continue to ask for more money for local government," which I think everyone in this room would agree with. "Councils need sustainable, long-term funding to better protect the services that people rely on as they face rising demand and increasing costs to deliver them. We need certainty and we need long-term plans." But unfortunately, as we sit in this room as Gedling Borough Council, Madam Deputy Mayor, we as a council and our residents have no certainty and no long-term plan because of local government reorganisation, which is, for all intents and purposes, going to be imposed upon us from Whitehall. And we will note that in the budget we have set aside £100,000 more to pay for local government reorganisation that, when we had the consultation last year, our residents were quite clear that they didn't want. And I don't think many of us in here want it. Madam Deputy Mayor, the cost of living crisis is continuing in this country. Bills are higher than they were a year ago. Inflation is continuing to be above 2%. And everything in this budget, no matter how small the increase is, will add to those pressures. And we're now faced in the last few days with another illegal war in the Middle East that will no doubt drive up prices, put up inflation further, and reduces the chance of an interest rate cut, which so many of our residents desperately need. I know we're not here to discuss the County Council budget, but I would just like to note for the record that Reform candidates and councillors put round a leaflet last year that said if they were elected to run the County Council, their main two priorities would be to freeze or cut council tax and fix the roads. Freeze council tax and fix the roads. And last year they hiked council tax, and I don't think anyone needs me to tell them how their project for fixing the roads is going. So I have genuinely been torn about whether to support this budget or not. There are not many days, Madam Deputy Mayor, when I miss being a member of a political group and being told what to do by my whip. And I'm sure there are even fewer days where the Labour whip misses me being in the group. But I think, given everything that we've heard tonight, I am minded to vote against this. But I do have, in addition to my specific questions that I asked Councillor Clark, and I don't necessarily expect an answer to these tonight, but could we please have some further detail on the flood alleviation works that is in the budget, because that's £42,000, so I'd like to know where that's going to be spent, and what is the council going to be doing to work with those community groups that are going to be affected by this 100% reduction in the funding, Madam Deputy Mayor, because this is, we're about to talk about Gedling's legacy. The community in Gedling is our past, our present, and our legacy. And I hope that we are going to continue to support those groups in the last 2 years that Gedling exists. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor White. And at least we've got one Happy Bunny car park in servicing. So thank you very much. OK, Councillor Sam Smith, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just start my contributions, if I may, on good bits about the budget that's in front of us. And if you're wondering if there are any good bits, I can pick out three, Madam Mayor. Temporary accommodation. I've banged on about this at Overview and Scrutiny Committee for many years, and also at this budget meeting particularly. Annually, the council spends over £200,000 a year on temporary accommodation, and I think that has gone on for far too long, and I've raised that year on year. And finally, we have a budget in front of us today asking us to invest into buying or building temporary accommodation. Not to make a boat reference, because I can't be bothered with reforms nonsense, but I do think Labour have completely missed the boat on this. We're about to invest in that housing need, which has frankly been ignored by Labour for far too long. And what will happen? The new authority that we're setting up will benefit from that Invest to Save project, not the taxpayers of Gedling. So what we're basically saying tonight is thank you, Gedling taxpayers, for propping up that expensive spend. We'll finally address it in our last year, but you're not going to get any benefits from it because the new authority are going to save that £200,000 year-on-year spend. So I know I said it was a good bit. There's a bit of feedback in there, Madam Mayor. I'm sure you'll forgive me for that. Investment into public protection that the colleague councillors made reference to tonight. Great. As I repeat my pleas for the fourth, fifth or sixth time of asking, I've lost count, can we make sure some of that's spent in Stoke Bardolph on Cats Lane, where fly tipping continually happens month after month and Gedling Borough Council ignore it? If we're putting money into public protection, let's do it. Flood alleviation, I can guess where that's going, Arnold Town Centre, because why else would this council be proposing it when the county council's responsible? I know where that's going to go, Arnold Town Centre, and Councillor Wheeler will be delighted for that. Well, there's residents in Burton Joyce and Stoke Bardolph and Gedling that flood year on year who could benefit as well, so let's try and spread it around if I may, Madam Deputy Mayor. That's the good bit's done. If I can just move on, isn't it brilliant? I'm really disappointed for the first time as being a councillor that Councillor Payne isn't in the chamber. Really disappointed, Madam Deputy Mayor, because the years that my ears have bled from listening to him stand up and shame the Conservative government for reducing core spending power at Gedling Borough Council, the second worst off in the country, if you can all remember. But don't worry, Labour are going to come in on their white horse and they're going to give us a multi-year settlement and everything will be perfect. Apart from the fact that that's happened and the core spending power of this council is no better off. No better off. So I hope he's in Parliament tonight reminding the Minister of that, like he reminded us year on year, Madam Deputy Mayor. The pet cremation service, still making a deficit. Again, monies that should instead be spent into delivering for the residents of the borough. Could have been spent on a road sweeper, could have been spent on improving parks. No, we'll spend it on a pet cremation business that loses money. We see it year on year, it's completely ridiculous. But what are Labour doing? Oh, we'll ask residents to pay more council tax and we're not going to increase the investment in services, which has been proposed to them on 2 occasions tonight and voted down, and I think that needs to be on record. Finally, can I just move on to the Colton Leisure Services? Their decision to spend the money and get rid of the gem in the crown of Gedling, which is the Bowls Club, has been made at Cabinet. That is subject to a legal process of a calling procedure, a constitutional process, sorry, not legal, of this council, which is a calling procedure. That calling is not going to be heard until the 9th of March. So I have a question for the monitoring officer of whether we can actually vote on the budget tonight, which cements that decision. Does that predetermine the outcome of Monday? What happens if Monday doesn't go the way the administration want and then we have to come back? So I just have that query. And before that query is answered, because that's a different matter, I think it is slightly strange that the council is in a position where it's about to spend 30 million quid-ish on leisure, when in 18 months' time, the council won't exist. We're borrowing money to then lumber the new authority with a debt. And then what that risks is saying to the residents who fall within that new authority that Carlton will be part of, you might need to pay higher council tax because your predecessors, who no longer exist, have lumbered us with a debt. When really we could spend £1 million and fix the drains under Carlton Forum and get on with it. And keep the gem in our crown, which is the bowling club. And then we bang on in committee meetings about well-being and looking after the vulnerable and the elderly, which I'm all for. But again, it's words and empty actions by Labour, because the action they're going to take is kick the bowls club out. For the sake of spending £30 million that we're going to lumber with another authority. It is completely ridiculous. You talk about listening to residents, let's listen to them on Monday the 9th, which I bet you won't, because they certainly don't feel listened to, Madam Deputy Mayor. Neither do my residents in Trent Valley, and for all those reasons we'll vote against this budget that charges more for less. But I would appreciate a legal response on the process of the calling, because I do feel that tonight we're risking prejudging that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sam Smith. Councillor David Ellis, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Deputy Mayor, and as has already been said, this year's budget has got to start from recognising the particularly difficult circumstances in which these budget proposals have been developed. We have to recognise the particularly difficult circumstances that these proposals have been developed in, and acknowledge the hard work of the officers, particularly the Section 151 officer and her finance team, in trying to make sense of the demand for our services with the resources available from the government and the council taxpayer. The sector has complained for years about the opaque, unfair and short-term nature of the funding settlement for local government. Funding has been unpredictable and subject to the vagaries of specific grants, and has consistently failed to keep pace with increasing demand. As the leader said, the efforts of the Labour government to address this area are to be welcomed. We have now a 3-year funding settlement, the allocation of which is based on a transparent, fair funding formula, and which brings many discrete funding streams into a single grant. Overall, the government expects to see local government funding increasing over the next 3 years by 8.4% in cash terms and 4.3% in real terms. About half of this funding comes from the council taxpayer. Introducing a new funding formula affects different authorities in different ways. Overall, most authorities will gain, but there will be some losers, some more than others. But the fair funding formula means that the biggest increase in core spending power goes to areas of deprivation and urban authorities. And the formula also takes account of the ability to raise council tax. Councillor Martin Smith said he expected to see an increase with the Labour government significantly beneficial to the council. The government is consciously trying to rebuild the damage that's been done by years of austerity, and particular priorities are given to adult social care and special education needs. Across the country, shire districts in the main are losing. This report highlights the effect on Gedling. In essence, the outlook for the next 3 years remains challenging, and this was even before the recent the war starting in the Middle East. But we can be proud as a Labour Council of our achievements over the last 15 years and our determination to continue to deliver for the rest of the life of this council. This budget and the legacy plan later on the agenda reflect this. Just want to pick out a few. Waste collection has long been problematic and a cause of dissatisfaction to our residents, but determined action at managerial and political level seems to be paying off, and hopefully this will now become a more reliable and efficient service, including the street care service. Our contract with the external enforcement agency is showing early results on fly tipping and littering to be in a cleaner, healthier borough. The council is grasping the nettle of its leisure provision. We're all aware of the problems, despite the fact that some members seem to want to ignore them. But this proposal is to secure leisure for the future, for all generations. The plans for Carlton Active offer an exciting health and wellbeing facility which will benefit the residents of the area long after this council has disappeared. Housing, of course, is a primary need for everybody, The Council is working hard to meet its housing targets through the new local development plan. And Cabinet has agreed a way forward on using developers' contributions to support affordable housing. The capital programme includes provision to continue to improve our play areas and to improve the maintenance of our car parks. And there's a commitment in the plan to continue to work with partners to improve life in Gedling, including the voluntary and community sector, parish councils, sports bodies, and of course the other councils affected by a local government review to ensure a smooth transition to the new councils. It's worth reminding ourselves, when we look at the effect of the council tax, that the share of the council tax received by Gedling, although we're responsible for 8%, although we collect council tax, we're only responsible for 8% of the money received. This increase on band day across Nottingham, across the borough, will be £101, but less than £6 of that comes to Gedling. Although there's been divisive comments and attempts within the chamber tonight to set parts of the borough against other parts, this budget seeks to meet the priorities across the whole borough, using the constrained resources to continue to improve the borough, and I'd commend it to the chamber. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ellis. Before I ask Councillor Maltby and Councillor Adams to say anything, our Deputy Chief Exec would like to say something. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. This is just in response to clarify the point that was raised by Councillor Sam Smith. The inclusion of in the capital programme of Rebus stages 3 and 4 funding for the Carlton Active project does not mean that the project goes ahead. That's a separate decision-making process which has to be undertaken by Cabinet. So just including it in the budget isn't approving it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Maltby.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Whilst Councillor David Ellis likes to tap himself on the back for a job well done, can I remind him that residents are more concerned about having the streets cleaned rather than having a brand new leisure centre, things that affect them every day. Also, you mentioned the previous government quite a few times and how brilliant the Labour government is. Well, the people in Gorton and Denton obviously don't agree with you. You lost that because the public think your Prime Minister is one of the worst we've ever had. Moving on to my point, I actually am going to do something very strange that I've never done before. I'm going to agree with Councillor Meads and also ask you to take a recommendation from Councillor Strong. I think we should actually just scrap doing anything with the leisure centre at the moment. Which would obviously help Gedling Bowls greatly. And the reason for doing that is, as Gedling Strong says, Councillor Strong says, we've only got 18 months. So if it's a waste of money for £45,000 for a rural officer, surely it's a hell of a waste of money spending 20, 30 million on a new leisure centre just to pass on the debt to a new authority. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Maltby. Councillor Adams.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Yes, I want to start off. I'm feeling in the mood for thanking people today. And I want to thank my team, actually. All of them that sit around me today. What they do is they spend a lot of time going away and researching all these things, and they put a lot of effort into putting sensible replies and sensible comments towards serious issues that this borough classes as its priorities, and I want to thank all of you for doing that. You've done a fantastic job, and this is no exception this time. But I want to move on and talk initially about the leisure question, which, I know we're taking that to an O&S meeting imminently, but I think what I really want to talk about is, this idea that the leisure is just for a certain amount of people, and what we should follow is a one-size-fits-all policy towards leisure. What local authorities do incredibly well is that they deliver services that aren't necessarily profitable for private businesses. They do that because there's a demand within their local area, and they create a situation and circumstances where people can take part in things and do things that normally they couldn't do privately. And to follow, a model effectively that involves a very same approach to leisure, which is, you get the standard gym, you might have a few rooms, you can, jump on a few of those gym balls or do some sort of Pilates or whatever it is, and then you might go into a standard pool and you might swim a bit and all that sort of thing. And there might be a room in there to get together and where you can hire and you can do sorts of bits and bobs. It's great, but that is everywhere we go. You can pick a off-the-shelf leisure facility anywhere. In the United Kingdom, it's been replicated across the board many times by many private businesses that will do it substantially cheaper than we can do it. And that's sort of the point, really. They can do that, but I don't think that means that therefore we should do that. So I think what's clear with me with the way that we're dealing with this leisure situation is we're not, instead of us giving a future authority an element of difference, an element of uniqueness in Gedling's identity, instead what we're saying is we're the same as everybody else, and therefore what we're offering the new authority is, well, no different to anything else. There's been lots of discussions over the years about how important Gedling is, and I know there was a big campaign a number of years ago by the existing administration to prevent what was a version of LGR back then on the basis that Gedling was unique and Gedling was in demand of its residents for its fantastic services and the fantastic offer it gave its residents. And that's what concerns me about this element of this budget, that, that isn't there. There isn't that uniqueness. What we're trying to do is we're stripping away the uniqueness and we're giving a one-size-fits-all to the new authority. And it does make you wonder that, who does eventually benefit from that? Well, I'm not sure anybody does, really, because I think when we lose that uniqueness in our area, maybe that's something that interests a significant part of this new authority that they want to get involved in, they want to be a part of. So I would be sad to see that. I'd be sad to see that change for that reason. And again, we've talked about budget, we've talked about saddling a new authority with new debt, and I think there's a big shout in that as well. Is it really up to us to saddle a new authority with further debt on the basis of a decision that we think is required to be made? And I may add as well that before I became a councillor back in 2015, I had a long conversation with Councillor Chris Barnfather, actually, who is here tonight. Welcome, Chris, nice to see you. We talked about leisure facilities, and it was interesting. There was a conversation of the existing Conservative administration a number of years before where they wanted to do this. They wanted to relook at leisure. They wanted to take the whole thing, rethink it, redevelop it. And what happened was Labour got hold of that idea and publicised the fact we were going to do that and actually turned it against us and made it an issue that effectively was a negative issue towards this borough. And in fact, it was voted down. I think subsequently the next election, I believe we may have lost subsequently, because we were willing to deal with that issue then. We were willing to deal with that issue before the pipes started failing, before there was a problem with the way that with our offer as leisure, before we became in a situation we were losing our identity. We identified there was a problem and we wanted to do something about it. And sadly, politics was grabbed hold of and it was used against us, and that failed. And I think that's, again, a further disappointment, and in many ways this is the issue. If you don't combat issues early on, when arguably there's a real chance we can do something about it, and instead you make it a political issue, eventually it comes back to bite you. And I think that's where you are now. You're in a realisation moment that actually you should have dealt with a number of these problems a number of years ago, but instead you decided to saddle it with politics, and as a result of that, as a borough, we're now having to deal with that again, whereas if that had been dealt with all that time ago, we'd have been in a better situation than we are now. And I think there's a lot of decisions over a number of years, one of which is our road sweeper, that if you'd have dealt with it a number of years ago, we would have been in a better position than we are now. And this is the thing. These ideas that come from fellow councillors in here, opposition councillors, independents, Liberal Democrats, Conservatives, all these different individuals that come up with these ideas at these sessions should be listened to, and you should really think about implementing some of this stuff, because these are people that have researched this. They have spent time looking at this. They're trying to work out ways that they can have a bit of this council and maybe call it their own as well. And maybe they've come up with these ideas in order to enable them to feel like that and truly represent the reason why they're here, which is for their residents. And that if there's one bit that walks away from this, I know you're not going to back, obviously, those things. We've already been through that. You know, I'll be honest, we're not going to back your budget because of the reasons that we've already mentioned. But if I can give you one bit of advice to take forward, please just spend 5 minutes and maybe listen to some of these suggestions from these councillors. Believe it or not, they actually know what they're talking about, and that's why people keep electing them.
Thank you very much, Councillor Adams. Councillor Martin Smith, please.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Just very, very briefly, a lot's been said already. I know Councillor David Ellis talked about, I think he scoffed at the idea that we're a two-part borough. Ravenshead residents don't feel connected with Arnold or Carlton or even with this borough. They're on a bus route that takes you to Arnold. Limbey residents certainly aren't. Papplewick residents certainly aren't. And those fantastic residents who live in Newstead Village have got absolutely no connection with this borough at all, apart from the fact that their bins, on the whole, get collected. I'd just like to, going back to the budget though, I'd just like to actually support Councillor Whiting's request for more information about community events and the removal of that budget. Newstead Village hosted in conjunction with Skate Nottingham, there was a skate jam session there last summer. I think there were about 5 across the borough. The one in Newstead was that had the most support, had the most number of people attending. I don't think it cost anything at all, apart from a little bit of grass trimming from this council. But to take that away from a village like Newstead would be sacrilege. So let's please, as Councillor Whiting has asked for, let's have a full explanation about that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. Anyone else wishing to speak on the original motion? Councillor Meads, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, Madam Mayor. I listened to Sam Smith then, and he was copying my speech from November, so it's probably why I keep getting asked to join the Conservative Party. Anyway, yeah, I've got, I mean, the only good thing about this budget is it's not the maximum amount, and 2.99% in reform speak is a cut, so, you know, that's to be commended. But we've got an increase, and really services have gone down. There have been collections that don't seem to get any better, and I had the funny situation a few weeks ago where I reported a whole street missing in Calverton, and I got told every 3 days that we don't do bins on that day in Calverton. I never told the officer I live on that road, and it took them till the next week to admit that, yeah, they'd missed our road off. So that's the first thing. The capital budget is based on the SIL report. The SIL report wasn't done thorough enough, in my opinion, and I've talked to the SIL officer who wrote it, and he said it's too late to redo it now because Cabinet have passed it, and it made Carlton Active come number 1. The other thing as well is we've got a leisure change manager, or I don't know his full title, but we're still going to spend £1.5 million paying somebody else to tell us whether we can afford Carlton Active or not, and I think that's absolutely scandalous. We spent £500,000 already, and we should be at a point where we don't need to spend another £1.5 million for somebody else to tell us whether we can afford this loan and this, that, and the other. I just find it crazy. And then we're talking about bowls and stuff. So for that reason, I'm dead against this budget. Thank you, Madam Deputy.
Thank you very much, Councillor Meads. Anyone else before Councillor Clark closes? No? Okay, Councillor Clark to close on the original motion, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor, and thank everybody. They've kept it at a reasonable level. Nobody's insulted anybody. You may have felt it, but and vice versa. But hindsight is a wonderful thing, but and memory is as well. Some people seem to forget after 16 years of being screwed in the ground, and it continues. I will say that it continues because we've not got what we did expect, but we've had 16 years of it, and trying to correct that is very difficult. And I think officers, staff, everybody else have worked hard to make sure that we've provided the services we do. I'm not going to get into the bowls thing. That's coming up on Monday night. I could go on for hours about that, but that may happen another time. The community groups, I'll ask Mike, so I noticed Mike was noting it down there, the Chief Executive will get your report back on that. And Russell, yeah, flooding. Well, flooding both in Burton Joyce and there, but you have the large pumps and things that go down to Collick to help prevent them getting flooded. We don't have to do that. None of that's mandatory. We don't have to do it. We can pull that, and then we'll see what you do with the water then, and we'll see what the County Council do with it. We'll see what the environment authorities do with it, and we'll see what Severn Trent do with it. See what happens then. And in the event of the bowls and the leisure and everything else, the complaints they're saying about getting the drains done, Sam, you're quite right. You were in charge. You were in charge for, was it 10 years at County Hall? And the drains have deteriorated on a building that you own, which is Carlton Forum. I would close the lot tomorrow if that's the case, to balance this budget so we don't go down the road of other councils where they've gone bust. So that's the way it is. It's a hard time of life now, and you're going to have to face it, and we're going to have to face it and make sure. Again, it's always saying about this Arnold thing, everything being spent in Arnold. Well, there's a significant amount of money spent in Calverton, a significant amount of money that's spent along the Colic Bank and along there. There's a significant amount of money that's proposed to be spent in Carlton. You've got the Towns Board money, which will hopefully be distributed over the central Carlton area. And, we'll do what we can. The time's running out. The sand's running through the sand thing, whatever they call it, timer. And we've got to hit this from, I don't know, it could be August now, we're told. It could be August then, that we've got to try and get this place fit to move on. And the services is seamless. I can't see that happening, but we'll try our best. And we thank everyone that's involved with this budget tonight. And I would move the vote. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Right, there's a vote on the original motion then, and as with the previous items, this vote's going to be recorded vote. Thank you, Mike, to take the recorded vote.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. So this vote is on the original proposal as in the papers for tonight. Again, when I call your name, please state either for, against or abstain. Councillor Adams.
Against.
Madam Deputy Mayor.
For.
Councillor Beswick.
Against.
Councillor Brocklebank.
For.
Councillor Clark.
For.
Councillor Creamer.
For.
Councillor Duncan. Councillor Elliott.
Against.
Councillor David Ellis.
For.
Councillor Rachel Ellis.
For.
Councillor Roxanne Ellis.
For.
Councillor Elwood.
Against.
Councillor Feeney. Councillor Fox. Councillor Greensmith.
Against.
Councillor Hunt.
For.
Councillor Maltby. Councillor Ron McCrossan. Councillor Viv McCrossan. Councillor Meads. Councillor Nyuk.
For.
Councillor Paling.
For.
Councillor Pearson. Councillor Catherine Pope.
For.
Councillor Graham Pope. Councillor Martin Smith.
Against.
Councillor Sam Smith.
Against.
Councillor Strong.
For.
Councillor Towsey Hinton. Councillor Wheeler.
For.
Councillor Whiting. Councillor Wilkinson.
For.
Madam Deputy Mayor, that vote is carried.
Thank you very much. Vote's carried. Thank you very much. Item 5 is the Council Plan on Gedling's Legacy Plan 2026 to 2028. The recommendations for you on page 263. Councillor Clark to move, and then Councillor David Ellis to second, please.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'll get on there, just give you a little bit of background to it. And this is, as discussed earlier, with the onset of local government reorganisation, the Council needs to ensure that a lasting legacy is left for the people of Gedling and that the transition to a new authority is as smooth as possible. Council Plan 2628, known as the Gedling Legacy Plan, consists of 4 key priority outcomes. These are: ensure healthier, safer and connected communities, provide responsive, reliable and value for money services, shape places to be proud of, ensure a safe transition to a new authority. These will be underpinned by financial resilience, effective government and workforce enablement. And the Legacy Plan sets out a number of clear deliverables against each of the 4 high-level priorities that take us through until 2028. So, Madam Deputy Mayor, the recommendation is on page 263, and I'll move that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Clark. Seconder?
Formally second and reserve the right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ellis. Right. Would anyone like to speak on this item? Councillor Sam Smith, please.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Obviously, look, we all agree with the priorities set out in the document that we have read in front of us. Who doesn't want healthier, safer communities? Who doesn't want to provide reliable services? Who doesn't want to help shape the place that they live? Who doesn't want to ensure a smooth transition to a new authority? But let's just go into the detail for those who have read past page 3. Priority 3. For me, is the most important, in my opinion, because it's all about place. That's all about where we live in the borough, where our residents live, and where we're proud to represent. There's absolutely no mention at all in priority 3. I've even pressed Control F, building on the Control C and V over there, on priority 3 to try and find the words community or even the words groups. What about groups like the Burton Joyce Village Lunch that is volunteer-led in aid of tackling loneliness, or Stoke Bardolph Village Hall that's finally open after 5 years of closure and is the heart of the community and provides free community events? That's just 2 in my ward. There'll be plenty all over the borough. Not one mention, not even the words community group are included in the place priority. What is the council here for if it's not to support the community? What's place if it isn't the community? It's a chance missed yet again by this council. And tonight, I know we've had a bit of humour about Arnold Borough Council. Well, this plan really brings that to life, Madam Deputy Mayor. Arnold, mentioned 8 times in the glossy 29-page magazine, 8 times. And if you can't read the words Arnold, you can look at 3 pictures of Arnold in this glossy magazine of 29 pages. Carlton, 8 times, Madam Deputy Mayor. Mentioned 8 times, pictured once. Colic, no mention of your new car park, that's not going to happen, might not happen, is mentioned once. Rural areas, anybody want to guess how many times they're mentioned? Lamley, Councillor Greensmith, once, lucky you. Burton Joyce, Councillor Adams. Woodborough, Councillor Greensmith. Ravenshead, Councillor Beswick. And Stoke Bardolph, none. Absolutely not one mention in the council's legacy plan of the villages. And I'll tell you why that is, and why our residents never blooming vote for you, is because you couldn't care less about them. You couldn't care less about the community groups that we fund out of our council pot because you want to cut the funding. You couldn't care less about the green belt that you're hammering with bricks and concrete and the biodiversity that you're killing off. You couldn't give a toss. And whoever responds to my rant, Councillor Clark, to say, yes, we do, the plan speaks for itself. 8 times Arnold is mentioned. 8 times Carlton's mentioned. And the villagers that I represent are mentioned 0. Not once. So I'll tell you what the legacy of Gedling Borough is in my villages, because you can't be bothered to write about them. Absolutely pointless. That's what the legacy of the Borough Council will be on the streets of Trent Valley. A pointless council that charges them more for less, builds on their beautiful green spaces that results in their houses flooding, can't be bothered to clean the leaves off their pavements that have been there since the autumn falls of at least 2016, and cannot be bothered to tell the people of the borough, thank you for paying your council tax, this is what we're going to do for you. They can't even be bothered to look after the community groups in Carlton, Mapley Top, or wherever else your urban areas are, because there's no mention of it. It is a complete disgrace, it is a complete missed opportunity, and it has this Labour-run council down to a T. Arnold and Carlton. Well, the villagers say no, and we will vote no tonight. Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sam Smith. Anyone else wishing to speak? No. Right. Councillor Mead.
Yeah, I was expecting a response to that one. Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Yeah, same sort of thing as Sam, but no, I'm not getting wound up about it because I'm used to it. I would have thought that going into the last year of when this council's got control of its own finances, there would have been something a bit more exciting. I'm all for parks. We've got some good parks in Calverton because we've got a lot of grants in, and it seems that looking at the budget as well, you're only going to do 2 more parks up again this year when there's and just rely on FCC when there's 4 different pots, 4 different grant organisations. You could have gone for 8 do 8 parks up, leave a bit of legacy like that, but no. This is just words and stuff, really. I mean, a lot of the villages around us, I mean, you know, Woodburn, Limby, Papawick, they're not going to know any difference. There's going to be no legacy for them from being paying into Gedling for 50 years. So I'll be voting against it, I think. Thank you, Deputy Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Meads. Anyone else? No? Councillor Clark, would you please?
Yeah, thank you. I think we're in a moment. We'll move to the vote. I've heard the rant of Councillor Smith, and I've listened to it, and the same with Councillor Meads. This is an outline of what we plan to do. It will be a legacy, and hopefully we can do some of it. But again, it reverts back to the fact how much funding we've got to do it and how much time we've got to do it. So I would move the vote, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Clark. So we'll move to the vote, but it is going to be a recorded vote as it's a budget-related item. So, Mike, would you please like to take the recorded vote?
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. At the risk of repeating myself, please state either for, against or abstain. Councillor Adams.
Against, thank you.
Madam Deputy Mayor.
For.
Councillor Beswick.
Against.
Councillor Brocklebank.
For.
Councillor Clark.
For.
Councillor Creamer.
For.
Councillor Duncan. Councillor Elliott.
Against.
Councillor David Ellis.
For.
Councillor Rachel Ellis.
For.
Councillor Roxanne Ellis.
For.
Councillor Elwood.
For.
Councillor Feeney. Councillor Fox.
For.
Councillor Greensmith.
Against.
Councillor Hunt.
For.
Councillor Maltby.
Against.
Councillor Ron McCrossan. Councillor Viv McCrossan. Councillor Meads.
Against.
Councillor Nyuk.
For.
Councillor Palin.
For.
Councillor Pearson. Councillor Catherine Pope.
For.
Councillor Graham Pope. Councillor Martin Smith.
Against.
Councillor Sam Smith.
Against.
Councillor Strong.
For.
Councillor Towsy Hinton. Councillor Wheeler.
For.
Councillor Whiting. Councillor Wilkinson.
For.
Madam Deputy Mayor, that is carried.
Thank you very much, everybody. That's carried. So we go on to item 6, Pay Policy 2026 to 27, and the recommendations are on page 309. Councillor Clark to move, please, and then Councillor David Ellis to second. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I'll move the recommendation on that page 309. Thank you.
Councillor Ellis.
For my second, reserve the right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone wishing to speak on this item? No. Councillor, who's then?
Move to the vote, please. Thank you.
All those in favour then, please show. Thank you very much. Anybody against? No abstentions? No. Thank you very much. That's carried. Thank you to everyone for attending this evening. That's the final item, so I will close the meeting, and I bet you're all really pleased. Thank you.
Members of the Council, members of the public, please be upstanding for the Worshipful, the Mayor of Gedling.
Anybody would like to come for a drink, you're very welcome. Okay, thank you.